Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO, president, and co founder of GSD Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur, been involved in a number of unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. We believe that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And with that, I'd like to introduce my esteemed guest, Jonathan Fried, friend of mine. He's an executive advisor, recruiter, seasoned entrepreneur, businessman from San Francisco. In fact, he's on the boat in the bay today. So a great time. Some people say they're working at home. He is on the boat. So that's a great thing. He was CEO of Wookie, purchaser of Sansar, turned around a 12-year-old search engine company to orchestrate the acquisition of a brand of VR technology unlike any of its kind in the world to animate the contents of the web. He's been involved in all kinds of different things. He's a volunteer, helps the homeless, turnaround executives, Homeland Immigration Services as a co-founder. I mean, you name it, Jonathan's done it, and he's all around good guy. So with that, I'd like to bring Jonathan to the show.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, mate.
Yeah, aye, matey.
So where are you on the bay right now? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm right off of San Francisco. Right now, I'm docked in Treasure Island, which is part of the San Francisco area. And my kids are doing a sailing camp. And we got this little boat to practice before camp starts.
You know, practice makes perfect, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. You know, you can't ever get perfection, but we can keep striving for it.
Oh, wow. And you have your kids with you today.
Yeah, you want to say hi? Here you go.
What's that?
That's Jack.
Hi.
Come here, Quinn. And that's Quinn.
You're pulling me.
Hi, Quinn.
Ow,
So I'm a proud dad of two, and they are great kids. They are great kids. 7 and 8 years old. Going to be 8 and 9. You see that? They're very proud of their daddy.
No, it's that's what kids are for. They keep their dads busy, don't they?
Yeah. It's been great.
So tell me a little bit about it. So you went to San Francisco State University, graduated in 2000. Are you from the Bay Area originally, Jonathan, or where are you from?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Burlingame, California. It's a little, San Mateo, and then went to high school, Burlingame High. In my early days, up until like the 3rd or 4th grade, we were in Foster City. And what's unique about Silicon Valley and Foster City in particular is that's right next to Redwood Shores where Marine World Africa USA was. And so as a kid, I got to grow up watching
Marine World Africa USA?
Yeah.
So what was the deal with that place?
Well, that was a place where you had all these kind of water adventures and killer whales and all kinds of stuff. We had a 600-pound elephant that would ride water skis. So growing up, you're in this environment where anything is possible. And it's Silicon Valley in the early days. This is the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. And so it was a wonderful place to grow up. And then when the first tech boom happened, I got to see all my, in the 90s, all my friends, their parents got to chase their dreams and do whatever they want. And so Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area really has kind of a blessed opportunity that goes back generations. And I think that's why a lot of innovation comes here. But Miami is giving a run for the money. Miami is hot these days, and Florida.
A lot of stuff going on. And, something, there's one simple thing, taxes.
Yeah, you can say that again.
And the situation is, I don't know about you, but with the price of gas, I was just checking the gas prices out in the valley, over $8 in a lot of places. And, some of the things need to be tweaked because we got to be more entrepreneurial friendly. You got such a beautiful environment. You've got Santa Cruz, you've got Yosemite, you've got a lot of things to do, but the prices need to start coming down and in line with the rest of the planet because the magic is there, but people aren't going to be coming to the magic if the entrance fees too much.
Well, it's funny because we spent California spent a lot of money doing fiber optic cables 20 years ago and all that. So they have the infrastructure. But like you said, Florida has that business kind of relationship, business minded relationship for corporations. So it's a great way to see how the evolution. And then you think about how Boston was a whaling center 100 years ago, and New York, the financial center. We see the evolution of our communities, which kind of brings us to the metaverse. But yeah, it's all about community and sharing and knowledge and all of that.
Now, how did your family get out to California? What were they involved in? What did you all of a sudden you just moved there one day, or what what are your roots?
Yeah, so my grandmother has three brothers and one sister. And what happened was her sister came out here when her husband retired. He was the president of Shell Oil Africa, and then he went on to be the chairman of the West Oil Consortium and things like that. So they came out here to retire and watch their kids grow up and the grandkids. And then her two brothers, Hafon and Mosey, they were in Syracuse, New York, and they were working computers. And in the 70s, they came out here to visit their sister, and it was so cold in Syracuse. And they came here and they saw the palm trees and all that. So they moved to Saratoga. They worked for Fairchild Semiconductors.
Oh
3M.
yeah, that was one of the founders, essentially one of the stalwart great grandfathers of Silicon Valley, right?
That's right. That's right. And what happened, what was interesting was they had a startup. This is in the late 70s. And they did a unique thing that people hadn't done. I mean, it's the early days of financing startups, in venture capital and risk capital in Silicon Valley. And so what they did was they knew they were going to make it big. And everybody has a rich uncle. There's that old adage, there's a rich uncle, And so they went to their rich uncle, and they said, we're going to make it big. Can we have some money? And then they realized that was just going to make them the next generation. So instead, they went to every single family member, including my mom, single mother. We lived in an apartment, and they made every single one of us, that were adults, put $400 into their startup. No matter
Really?
what. Yeah. So
you were like the original Families and Friends program.
Yeah, right. It's kind of funny. Well, there was about 100 cousins, family, friends, everybody. It was just a standard share, $400. Our rent at the time, my mom's rent in the 2-bedroom apartment in Foster City was $250 a month.
Wow.
So it was a lot of money for her, but they didn't care. They said you have to figure out a way, and everybody put it in. And then by 1979 or so, the company built high energy testers. So they built supercomputers that tested other supercomputers. And by that time, they had an exit, and everybody did well, But the legend of all these family members and arguing, do you sell, do you not sell, and things like that, I think that comes from the family. I don't know. But we experienced it for sure.
So your mom had a big exit.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that at the time. It was big, right? This is 1984. In 1984, I believe they had 2,000 employees in Silicon Valley.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So.
And so what happened to your mom then? What's the story? Did she become a venture capitalist?
No, she went into real estate, flipped houses, all that kind of stuff. She was trained as kind of a. She was trained kind of as a. She was an engineer, a secretary to an engineering firm. And so she was trained in that. And so she knew about land and soil and topsoils. And, a lot of the Bay, Foster City in particular, Redwood Shores, was all, infilled and things like that. So, yeah. And then my dad had a newspaper with my grandpa out here in the Bay Area called The Observer. And so we got to.
Newspaper at the time, right?
It was a pretty big paper. It was fun. It was a weekly. It was a fun paper. And so you got to stay in touch with things and people, and that's one thing that, maybe we're kind of missing a little bit, the sense that, after the pandemic, we're coming back, we're reawakening. But how do we stay in touch with each other? How do we find each other? Do you go to the local coffee shop, talk to a stranger,
Yeah.
or can you do it in a chat room or a Discord channel or whatever, you know? And so
How
we're
was it? So you're growing up with your dad. Did you have a lot of people hanging around? People would want the visibility, right? The newspaper, the visibility in the press. Was it with a lot of politicians, a lot of actresses and actors? Were they hanging around, or how was it?
I didn't really notice as much, but yeah, they were around. My grand, so my dad started the paper with his dad, who was a campaign manager. He got Prop C in the 1950s, paid for, and that Prop C was the first one in the country to earmark police salaries to the cost of living within the community. So that was a
Oh,
big thing in the
really?
1950s.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he did that and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun growing up. I mostly, as a kid growing up, was hanging around the newspaper. So I was
Hmm.
by the printing presses. I was, doing the fun stuff like that. I had a little column that I would write called Kids Corner, and I talk about the kids' issues of the days.
Oh,
And I,
that's great.
yeah,
That must have been
yeah,
fantastic. You were giving
yeah.
your autographs out to your buddies, huh?
Right? Yeah. Well, I just asked them, hey, we'd talk about video games, you know, Sega Genesis came out, Nintendo, all that stuff, right? GoldenEye on PlayStations and all that. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun, you
Wow,
know?
that's amazing. So you went down through, you were intern at Dean Witter, various companies, you're managing director. Crown Sterling, you moved over to properties. So how did you go, that now you're over in properties. You've done the paper thing, you went over to properties, and you did contracts, right? So you did a lot of contracts on that side. How was it? I mean, you've got a wide background. How in the world did you go from that to Homeland Immigration Services?
That's funny because in 2016 there was the Haitian migrant crisis,
Hmm.
and I don't know why I was just compelled. So a little thing about my mom: when she came to this country, she came here as a senior in high school, and a lot of times parents don't do the paperwork correctly. So she went from as a senior in high school in Las Vegas back to New York, and she was working as a young woman, waitressing, and her boss didn't want to pay her. Found out she didn't have papers and deported her. And
Really?
so
Where's your mom from?
Italy,
Wow, that's
Italy,
amazing.
yeah. And so instead of paying her the 2 week salary and the tips and all that, he got her deported. In those days, you could do something like that. It was a lot
Wow.
tougher. So she paid her own airfare. So she came back a year later correctly, you know. But um, when I heard about this migrant crisis, I don't know why, I was just compelled to do something.
Hmm.
In California, you can become a bonded immigration consultant, allow you to fill out the paperwork. And so I went down there. I went to the church they were all staying at, and I tried to help. And
Wow,
and my
that's
and
great.
my process was I would, and this is kind of how I view everything. My process was I'm going to teach the first group, and then they can start teaching the next group, so it becomes something that they all get to do on their own, right?
And did they do
Independence.
that? Were they doing it, John? Did they help each other? And did you see that take place?
Yeah. So what happened was I gave the all the forms. I showed the priest, and then there was two like community members that were kind of in charge, and they were going to visit and checking the immigration stuff. The police force and all that. And so I taught them first, and then they carried on. They carried on.
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
spent like about 10 days down there, but we got 5,000 people their forms,
Well, that's
and then
great. And you did it for almost 2 years, right?
yeah. Well, then what happened was I was at the DMV, and the guy in front of me, and this talks about idea creation. Idea creation is so important, right? Especially for startups and entrepreneurs. And how do you constantly innovate and come up with new ideas? And they can come from anywhere. And so I was at the DMV renewing my license, and the guy in front of me, who I think was from Saudi Arabia, they had 20 in California. Your DMV uh, paperwork is translated into 26 languages. but
Oh
not
my,
Arabic. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, but not Arabic at the time. And so he was complaining. And at that moment, I went to I figured out a way to we should have an auto translation service to auto populate and translate the forms, and that's what Homeland Immigration became. Adam Plumer, who happens to be my cousin, he is a professor of AI at Google, and so we partnered up. Family and friends again. We partnered up, and the hardest part of that, the linguistic, translation, was not the hard part. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
that hard to say name, things, right?
Hmm.
Nombre, things like that. The hardest part was getting to where you filled out the form and we printed the name exactly within a millimeter on the actual document. So you would see the form in your own language, and then it would auto translate and then print onto the actual one. So that's so it wasn't very sophisticated technology,
Hmm.
but it was good.
No, that's great. Wow. So you go from there, you go to Sanzar. Now, how do you go from that, right, to helping the Haitians to Sanzar?
Yeah, that's funny. I had a friend who had an old tech company, and I had a little startup, and he was going to invest in my startup, but then he asked me to help him on his. And so he had what was a search engine with a CTO who comes
Mhm.
from CTO Garnet Cheney, who was a gentleman who invented a lot of the methodology we use in search today in the search bar. So there was a prominent CTO, and they needed a pivot. They had lost all their investor money. They had no technology to speak of,
Mhm.
and it was on the brink of collapse. And so I got brought on board, and we just started talking, and I spent hours and hours and hours with the CTO talking, and we came up with this concept to animate the contents of the web.
Mhm.
Um, with that, I got Dmitry Konevsky from Google to be an advisor. He's their chief scientist, and then we got some other people from Carnegie Mellon, who were experts in linguistics and algorithms and all that. And what happened was nobody wanted to do the hard part was HTML animation of the contents.
Right.
Everybody's willing to translate and say Jack runs up the hill to meet Quinn. That's my daughter's name, or Jack and Jill, whatever. Right?
Mhm.
Jack runs up the hill. Quinn runs up the hill. Everybody's willing to take a picture, right, and say that the next picture is someone running and the next picture is someone up a hill. But to actually draw that is a lot of work. So we raised money to do it, and the team got discouraged at that moment. And by happenstance, sometimes it's your luck. I was in a restaurant, and I met the head of HR for Linden Labs,
Mhm.
and she was supposed to be laying everybody off.
Mhm.
And they were in real trouble at the time, and there was a lot of problems. And yet, uh, she told me about it, and I just needed a team. I was just looking for a team. And then the team also came with technology.
Wow,
And
that's
so,
great.
yeah, so we were able, and that's the metaverse, Sansar, Project Sansar is what they called it inside Linden Labs. Project
Mhm.
Sansar was like a new iteration of Second Life.
Wow.
Second Life is the beginning of really the virtual worlds, and the first to come up with concepts of owning land in virtual worlds. Philip Rosedale was a really ahead of his time, and
So you were there 8 months, right? What did you do? Did you leave or did you sell the company? And what did you do?
we had a falling out. There's a difference of opinion. What I wanted to do was take Sansar, do a reverse merger with a public company that Wookie owned, and allow the users on the platform and even the people of Second Life to buy shares in the company and take the company public. The rest of the management team, I was only there as an interim CEO, up until, for 6 months, and then for 2 months as CEO. And so the management team decided they wanted to keep it privately held. And, they've had trouble because of that. They've had a lot of trouble in maintaining the finances because of that and things like that. But there's some very exciting news going on. There's a new CEO coming, from what I hear. There's a new management team that have wonderful ideas. I have a few ideas. I'm waiting on the sidelines until they want to do it. But we have some wonderful ideas that should be coming forward in the next 30 days. It's going to be a completely different world on Sansar, because the beautiful thing about Sansar was not just the technology and the artistry, but it was also the people that put it together, and the people that made that community, and then the people who are there now supporting it, keeping it alive, right? They should really be applauded. It's easy to jump on a bandwagon and everybody has success, but these guys and girls are really committed to the metaverse. Hopefully one day, I don't know if we're going to have a duality, but the thing about the metaverse that's really interesting is that it creates a whole new economy, right? And so on a very basic level, it automatically creates opportunity for everybody in it, and if you think about what does virtual reality and metaverse really do, it really creates this community to express yourself and to express art. And I mean, isn't that the greatest, other than eating and sleeping, isn't that the greatest thing to do, is to be able to express yourself, to be able to share who you're with and what you're about and things like that, and to find people
You
like
sound
you.
like you're pretty much into the metaverse. So what are you doing in the metaverse today?
Well, I'm working on a project I can't talk about entirely, but you met Jerry.
No, it's okay. You can tell us. Nobody's here. Don't worry about it.
Well, I'm working on a project that I hopefully, with the wonderful team, I'm very excited about, that we're going to add new avenues to the metaverse, right? Not just going mobile and not just for headsets, but a whole new, entirely new avenues into going there. And the team that I've been talking with, I'm very impressed by. The people are genuine, wholeheartedly into the metaverse, into what it's about, into building communities. They're very excited about the opportunity. And the thing is finding like-minded people, right? And finding like-minded people when you're part of an executive team that you kind of feel each other in a way. It's very exciting to be part of that, as far as it goes, And so we have some very new and exciting uh, avenues into getting the metaverse, getting virtual worlds out there. Sansar has 3,800 virtual worlds that were user-generated virtual worlds, and they got wonderful the patent portfolio. One of the things in the artistry of it all, right, is that the ability to have a likeness. There's the ability to have a likeness, right? And so some things that are difficult is like the eye creation, and how the twinkle of the eye, the crease of the smile, right, and how the hands move. And Sansar has all three of those,
Wow,
and
that's super.
and they're patented, right? So if you remember Alter Ego on Fox, that was an exciting show, right? Every time they wanted to move their hand, they just put a fireball, which was the symbolize, some sort of hand gesture. We actually can look at each finger.
Yeah. So tell me, we're coming up to the top of the hour. Closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Gary, thank you for having me, first of all. And,
It's
this
my
has been a
pleasure.
great.
It's great to see you. Great to see your family. Have
Thank you.
fun with
Here,
the
Quinn, you want
kids.
to
You look like you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah. So if you want to reach me, my personal email is intakefunding@gmail. That's intake, INTAKE, funding
Yeah.
at Gmail. This is Jack and Quinn. And if you put Jack and Quinn in the subject line, I'll be sure to open it. Okay, I'm
Just
gonna make
remember,
them.
everybody, Jack and Quinn in the subject line.
Yeah,
Because he's
that
ready. Jonathan's ready to go.
yeah, yeah. And final thoughts. Let's all try to make a better world together. And just be nice and kind, and we're all gonna have a really good life ahead of us, and just enjoy the art, enjoy the conversations, enjoy whatever part that interests you, both in real life and in the virtual world.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well said. So thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I appreciate it. It's great seeing the kids. And to my audience out there, my name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios. It's great to have you here again. Stay tuned for another exciting edition. Next Tuesday, I will be broadcasting from Spain. So talk to you then. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thanks again. Have fun with the kids. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.